So I finally finished the Hellraiser franchise and watched every single one of them. Now, like I've said in my previous videos, I didn't hate any of these except for one of them, so you'll know what the number one is, the one I hate the most is, because it'll be the last one. But this franchise is really interesting, and I'm glad I finally watched the sequels, because like I said, I watched the first one before, loved it, rewatched it again this time to watch with the sequels, still loved it, and this is one of those franchises that is really weird because they go direct to video like after the third one, or is it the third one that's direct to video? I don't know. But they go direct to video really quick, and these movies, whether they're good or not, I think are all interesting movies. Like, they all have interesting things about them. They're interesting in their own right, even if I don't like them or like them. So let's get into it. Out of the 10 Hellraiser movies, my number 10 is Revelations. I hated this movie, and if you watch my review of it that I just did, you'll understand more about it, but this was just... It was made in 2 weeks. It's very amateurish, and I hate to say that. I hate to say for a horror movie that's low budget like these, I hate to point out the fact that it's amateurish, but that is so horrible in how it looks, how the camera work is, the acting. The new Pinhead is terrible looking. And I know people complain about that the most, but that didn't bother me as much as the whole movie. Like, I didn't care that there was a different Pinhead. He looked distracting, but it didn't bother me as much as the whole movie, which was so uninteresting and boring and so stupid. Like, these characters were so annoying. The acting was bad. The movie looked bad. The camera work was awful. And I hate being big film critic on that. Like, oh, that looks terrible with the camera work and the acting. But God, I could not stand anything about Revelations. I thought it was one of the worst horror sequels I've ever seen. And I hate that I think that. I wanted to find something positive about it, but I couldn't. So Revelations is my number 10. I hated that movie so much. And my number 9 is Hellraiser Deader. Now, this one, I did like Amy, the main character in this movie. I liked her a lot. I thought she was good. I thought she was totally fine. And there's moments of good in this movie and fun in this movie, but it's the most uninteresting besides Revelations for me. Like, it's super just bland, and since this is one of those plots that the script was not a Hellraiser script, and they obviously inserted Pinhead into it, this one felt more like that than the other ones, where it was just very uninteresting. So that's why it's my number 9, and I can't really say much else about it. That I just thought it was not that interesting. And number 8 is Bloodline. Now, Bloodline is interesting because it does a lot of different stuff. It shows like the creation of the box. It shows, and it's also in the future in space. So I did like how it's doing different timelines and connecting them together, but it just, again, wasn't that interesting. And you're gonna hear me say that a lot. Like, I just didn't think it was that interesting, but I liked it more than Deader in terms of, like, it was cool seeing stuff in the past, present, and future. And Kim Myers is in it, so of course I can't be too mad with her in it, but Bloodline is my number 8. And number 7 is Judgment, the last one that just came out. Now, this one is, again, pretty bland and uninteresting, but I thought the kills were good. I thought it looked good. I thought it looked theatrical for a direct-to-video movie, and I thought that it just was interesting in a lot of facts, but it was not interesting in a lot of facts. Like, it looked good. It looked like a good police procedural from, like on TV, but it was just very... Again, not very interesting. I hate that I'm saying that again, but it's not interesting is what the first few that I don't like are really what I'm going to say about them, is that they're very just not interesting. And I like the new Pinhead in this, and I forgot to say that in my review for Judgment. I thought the new Pinhead in this is a better replacement than the one that was in Revelations. This guy looks at least a little more like Doug Bradley, but Judgment, again, just mixed on it, just really just alright. It's not anything that is amazing, not anything that's terrible. And my number 6 would be Hellraiser 6, I think, where you bring back Kirsty, and it is annoying that they bring her back and waste her, But I did like bringing her back brought credibility to this movie. I thought she made it more interesting, even though she's not in it as much. You sprinkle her throughout, but she's not in it that much. But I did like her. I thought some of the imagery was cool in Hellseeker. I liked the twist a lot at the end of Hellseeker. I thought that was a great twist. Um, so, and it made sense since they didn't use Kirsty much in this movie. That was cool to have that twist and have her at the end of the movie. So Hellseeker, I liked the ending a lot, but the rest was just okay because it was just Trevor encountering this weird crap, and then like he keeps waking up from it. It's not. It just kept doing a lot of fake outs, and they were really stupid. But I really enjoyed the ending. I thought the ending was awesome. And number 5, controversial, is number 3, Hell on Earth. Now this one, I feel like ranking it, like it's the one that looks the most after 2, like the first 2 movies. Like it looks like the first 2 movies, but it's got really silly acting in it. But it's one of the more interesting ones. Like I liked watching 3, even though it's really silly. Like I enjoyed watching 3 a lot. Like that one actually made me, even though it had a lot of silly acting, a lot of silly moments in it, like silly cheesy deaths, like I thought that it was fun. That's why it's my number 5. And number 4, funny enough, is one that now I hear everybody say is awful, Hellworld, and I guess I can't complain because I hate Revelations and some people like that too, so I'm glad people have different opinions. But Hellworld is one of those movies where I really enjoyed Lance Henriksen in it, and I really enjoyed the twist at the end of the movie in it. I liked how the movie played about with how Lance Henriksen kind of seemed like he was warping reality, when at the end you realize what really is happening. But I like the fact that it seems like it's just this interesting story of these kids going to this mansion, and like then they are getting fucked over by Lance Henriksen, and I enjoyed that, honestly. I thought that was really fun. I just thought it was a really fun movie with, again, a good twist like Hellseeker. But I liked Lance Henriksen a lot. I thought he was he brought great credibility to this to make it more interesting to me. And then number 3 is Inferno, a Hellraiser 5. Now this one, I don't know why I like this so much. This one just, to me, I don't know. It's one of those Hellraiser movies where it was not a Hellraiser script. They put Pinhead into this movie. But I thought that this was such an interesting Hellraiser movie because I really like the main character, and I'm blanking on his name right now because I watched all these in quick succession. But the main character I liked. I thought that he was a horrible character, but I liked the performance from the actor, and I thought it made this character not likable in a way, but just like intriguing and compelling. Like I thought this actor was really compelling in this movie. And Scott Derrickson directed this, and you can tell with his stamp on it with how he did a lot for this direct-to-video movie with the cinematography and the visuals. Like this has some awesome visuals, some really good ones. It's got a main character I really like because of his performance. I liked how it's set in the Hellraiser world, but it's a hard-boiled detective story. I think that that's fun, and I thought that's interesting. I thought that, besides Judgment, I thought that this was the better one of the two, where, like, it's more interesting with this character going through all this shit and doing all this horrible shit. Like, I thought he was interesting. So I really enjoyed Inferno. Surprisingly, I was like, wow, this is really, honestly, pretty good. Like, I really did enjoy Inferno. And then number 2, here we go. Number 2 is the second one. Now, the second one is obviously going to be my second, like, in the ranking, because number 2, I enjoyed. I know more than the other sequels, even though, like, I really did like Inferno, but 2, because 2 looks so much like the first one in terms of, it's like Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 where they look so much alike, like they're literally happening, and this does the same thing Halloween 1 and 2 does, where it's literally just happens after the first one. So this looks just like the first one, but it has a different story, and it's interesting and unique like the first one. And I love that Kirsty is back. I love her story. I love seeing Julia back. I thought that was awesome. Julia is great in this movie. The actress who plays her is awesome in this. and it's got some great visuals, some great gross moments in it, and Pinhead is great in it. I like how you get a little more with Pinhead too in the story, and I liked Kirsty's overall like continuing to try to stop Pinhead, and Julia interfering, and just those two, Julia and Kirsty, were awesome again in this movie. They were really great again, like the first one. So I really enjoyed this one, and it feels so much connected to the first one, even though it's not as good. That little blonde girl that's at the institution with Kirsty who can solve the puzzles, I thought was a weird addition because she never comes back after this one, and she lives in the end of the movie, but she never comes back, and she is just there to solve the puzzle. And it reminds me of something like Phantasm 2, which is a movie I like too, where like this blonde girl from an institution joins the main character along for the ride. So I thought that it, like, stuff like that is kind of makes it weaker than the first one, but overall this one still visually looks great. Has great performances from the actresses who play Kirsty and Julia. I really love them, and I just love this movie overall, even though it did have a lot of issues that made it not as good as the first one. But this was the most worthiest of the sequels, definitely, because of bringing the actors back and having it look like the first one, and having almost the same visuals and how it looks. Like, so I really enjoyed Hellraiser 2, or Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And my number 1 is obviously the original. How can you go wrong with the original? Rewatching this one again, this one was like, I forgot how good this movie is. I forgot how disgusting it is in a great way with the visuals. The visuals are incredible. I think it's just a great movie overall, with Julia and Frank having this relationship where Frank used the box so like he comes back, but he needs flesh, so Julia goes and murders for him. Murders for him so he can eat the flesh of people to make him have his skin back again, while the Cenobites are trying to find him. And Kirsty is just thrown into a situation where she finds out that her that her new stepmother is this horrible bitch who's like trying to bring back Frank and killing people, and Kirsty is just pissed about it. I love it. I think that it's great. So I really do love the first one, and the visuals again are just some of the creepiest, grossest visuals I've ever seen in a horror movie, and I love it. Whenever they show the scenes of where Pinhead's lair is with the chains and with the flesh on the floor, like, that is disgusting, and it's all practical. I love that too. It's all practical effects. So I really do love the first one, and it's just fantastic. And like I said, watching all of these, they're all really interesting, and the only one I hated was Revelations, and I'm glad to say that because everybody else says that all the sequels are awful, and I could see why people don't like them, but awful, I think, is a big, like, over-exaggeration. Like, there's things about them to me that stand out, like, visually, or how these movies are unique or interesting, the sequels. So this is a very unique franchise, and I really enjoyed watching them all, and I really did like a majority of them, and one I hated, and some I thought were just average okay. I never thought any besides one were awful. Just one was bad, but every other one of them were alright or great or amazing. So I really enjoyed rewatching rewatching the first one and watching the rest of this franchise. So this was an awesome thing to talk about. So I'm glad that I finally finished the Hellraiser franchise. And I think next up I will do the Scream franchise, which I have not seen the Scream film since 2015, whenever Wes Craven died. So it's been a while since I've seen him. I've seen him dozens of times, but it's been a couple years. So I'm excited to talk about the Scream franchise next. Thanks guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on my Scream reviews.